So we're going to move along, and we are going to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles, the scumbags from Philly. I told myself I wouldn't have too much bias going into this episode, but just seeing that fucking bullshit ass logo is just, gets my blood boiling. But I will calm down for you guys, and we're gonna get through this together. We're talking about the Eagles there. Pretty solid team last year at 11-6. Let's talk about their losses first. They lost a couple running backs.
They lost a lot.
They
in
did
the second
lose.
half of the season.
They did lose a lot. Well, there you go. I love that. They lose. Yeah. And hey, the last game, division game, last game of the season, who they played? None other than the New York Football Giants, who kicked their ass, made them bench their starters, hurt AJ Brown, which I never like to see a player get hurt, but if they're wearing that ugly, ugly green, then maybe. So,
I mean, the Kelly greens is a good look, but
Kelly green is a good look.
Whatever this green is, yeah.
Look,
I would agree.
I do not like Eagle fans, but I can appreciate their passion for the sport. So, I will give them that. They are a fun group. All right, let's get in these losses. I will say the biggest loss for me is running back Boston Scott. Thank the Lord he is not going to be on the Eagles to score on my Giants and just turn into freaking Bo Jackson every time he played us.
I'm glad you brought that up, because if not, I was going to.
Okay, yeah, all right, we can move on now. DeAndre Swift also, Julio Jones, who kind of was a little bit of a dud for them. But really, here's where we start making the impact for me. Jason Kelce, one of the few Philadelphia Eagles, Philadelphia sports players that I can absolutely have just so much respect for, not only as a player, but as a person. He just did everything the right way. First ballot Hall of Famer, no question for me. I think he was one of the best players the league has had in general.
And one of the best podcasters. I mean,
that's true. Fellow podcaster. Shout out to, So
for sure.
No, Jason Kelce. Yeah, he's gone. Also Fletcher Cox, Hassan Reddick, Shaq Leonard, Kevin Byard. And then talking about the additions, they brought in a good amount of people here. So you got Saquon Barkley.
Ooh, that's a stud.
We'll get to. You know what? Fuck it. We'll do it right now. You know what? Yeah, Saquon Barkley, who I know we like to say, when someone plays for your organization, you wish them well, and you say, oh, well, I hope, whatever, I'll be a fan. Fuck that. I am not being a fan of Benedict Barkley, all right? That man I am no fan of his. He wanted to say all this shit about being a Giant for life and all this, yada, yada, yada. And then not only does he go to the fucking Philadelphia Eagles, but he also starts to gloat around like he's just like, oh, well, this was always meant to be, and, I don't even have to move and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, I'm absolutely a salty Giants fan. I will not be very rooting for Saquon Barkley, if you could not tell.
Hey, man. They lost Boston Scott, though. He was your killer. He was the Giant killer. He was, taking what? He scored in how many games straight?
All right. Moving on. They brought in Paris Campbell as well. Defensive end Bryce Huff, who is a solid player from the Jets. Linebacker Devin White, whose best years might be in his past from the Bucks. Safety CJ Gardner-Johnson, a fellow Gator who actually played there when I went there. He is a pretty good player. He runs his mouth like a CJ is a Philadelphia Eagles fan. You know what I'm saying? He's someone if he's on your team, you're like, yeah, fuck yeah. But if he's not, bro, that guy's fucking annoying, man. Yeah. Like these Philadelphia Eagles fans. So I think he'll fit in fine. And then really they sold out on cornerback, and I hated watching the draft because they really got two solid players.
Much needed. Yep.
Yeah, two solid prospects in Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. So that wraps up their kind of offseason. Pretty eventful offseason. So what are your takeaways from it?
Yeah, no, I think the biggest loss for the Eagles is by far Boston Scott, because, he's a touchdown machine against your Giants. But like you said, I mean, losing Jason Kelce up front, losing Fletcher Cox up front on the defense, having those two retire they're major blows to both sides of the interior of those lines. And it'll be interesting to see if the Philly what all are we calling this? The Philly, the tush push, the brotherly shove, the whatever we're ending up calling this.
That's the bullshit. That's not going to work.
Yeah, we'll see if that continues to be as successful
Yeah.
for the Eagles. Obviously, you have a pretty good quarterback there as well with some massive legs, but it'll be interesting to see if that continues to be as successful for the Eagles, because nobody else has been able to figure it out as well as just Kelsey had.
No, that is gonna be an interesting point at that. I will say, even as a Giants fan, I don't know his name, but the offensive line coach for the Philadelphia Eagles, he's probably one of the best assistant coaches that the league has. Like, he just, like, taking Jordan Mailata, a guy who never played football and played rugby, and turning him to a solid tackle there, left tackle. Like, he is a really good coach. So we're gonna see how much was it Jason Kelsey figuring out the angles and making that tush push work, or was it really the coaching? So that push is going to come to shove this year, so we will see there. But what other stuff? What do you think about this defense?
Yeah, defensively, I mean, their secondary was definitely the weak part of their defense last year, and they went heavy in the draft with Kenyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. So I think the defense is going to be young. They're going to need to get tested over the first few weeks. But at the same time, like, they finished 1-6 last year. Like, they had to do something, especially on that defensive side of the ball. Their offense, they have studs everywhere. They obviously they lost a couple, but they brought in a couple guys that should be able to be serviceable and fill in pretty nicely.
Yeah, no, if we're just looking at this defense, you said it, but, like, you got Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, first or second and third year guys there. Bryce Huff, also a younger player, but Nakobe Dean's a young guy. Nolan Smith is a young guy. Quinyon Mitchell is a young guy. Reed Blankenship. Like, they got this. That's just their starting defense, not even mentioning, DeJean and some other guys like that. But it is going to be interesting, because that is a new era in Philadelphia. We talked about the offensive line as well, with Cam Jurgens and Tyler Steen stepping in. Dickerson's a young guy as well, but this is definitely the new age for this Philadelphia Eagles. So for my sake, let's hope they're not nearly as good as the old players there. All right, let's talk about some of these injuries. So one of the guys we just mentioned, Nakobe Dean, he's probably the guy with the biggest questions on his team coming in. He's just had trouble staying on the field. He showed some promise last year. He actually looked like one of their better linebackers, but he picked up a Liz Frank injury. For those that do not know, Liz Frank injury is an injury in your foot. It is either to the bone or the ligament in the middle section of your foot there, between the kind of the second and third foot or toe region. So when that happens, it requires surgery. The foot becomes unstable, so you have to have surgery to repair it. It's about an 8 to 10 month recovery timeline till you really can get back on the field and start looking like yourself. Probably even longer for that, but he's got 9.5 months from the injury to when he gets back on the field. How much concern do you have for Nakobe Dean heading into this 2024 season?
Yeah, honestly, I don't have a ton of concern. I think the biggest thing is he going to be as explosive as before his injury? He was one of those just freak athletes, coming into the league.
Around, man.
He can absolutely fly to the ball. A lot of times when we have one of these longer recovery, lower extremity injuries, like, some of that explosiveness, some of that speed takes a little bit to come back. So overall, I think he'll be ready towards the start of the season, if not week 1. But at the same time, like, we've seen countless times that linebackers it takes them a while to get back in the swing of things. So.
Yeah. You do not get better at playing football by not playing football, especially as a young player. So just the one guy I really have some questions with going in, but again, he does have a good shot to be ready to go by the start of the season. Two other guys I have a lot less concern about. Really quick, we'll mention AJ Brown. He did not play in that game where they lost and their season tragically ended, with all of the sarcasm in the world in that tragic statement. Ended by the hands of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which we were on the Buccaneers. Thank you for that, Baker Mayfield. And James Bradbury also picked up a minor hip abductor injury. That's just one of the muscles on the outside of your, it's a kind of a group of muscles on the outside of your hip. They're talking about transitioning him from cornerback to safety, because they brought in all this young youth at the cornerback position. Another trader who was playing with my Giants and went over to the dark side there. But not a lot of concern with either of these guys. They both should be pretty good to go. Definitely AJ Brown. We'll just kind of want to monitor Bradbury, make sure it doesn't kind of linger. All right. let's talk about some of our concerns. I will kick this off. My biggest concern is just the offensive line play. I just think it's a lot of not just the offensive line, the line play in general, both sides of the ball there for this team. I just think that whenever you lose someone like Kelsey, one of the best players that the league has seen in a number of years, I think that's tough. Same as a guy like Fletcher Cox. I think Cam Jurgens, Tyler Steen, and Dickinson have a lot to prove this year. Now, I'm not saying that they can't reach that potential, but I don't think we should just slate them to be, as good as the guys whose place they left. I think they still have some things to prove. And same thing with Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, and Milton Williams. These are young guys with a lot of potential, especially look like how Carter looked. But I mean, for a while, Jalen Davis, they were talking about, can he stay on the field? Like how many plays can he actually play? So now he's going to be at an increased role. They do not have the depth that they once had, right? You still have Josh Sweat slotted in to be a rotational guy, but behind him, their backups look like Moro Ojomo, Marlon Tiapolutu, and Thomas Booker. So yeah, that is not Fletcher Cox, Hassan Reddick, Derek, is it Brooks?
Yep.
Not Brooks. What's his name? Brandon Graham, excuse me. Derek Brooks is the old Tampa Bay Buccaneers guy. But yeah, so it's just not the same. So I think that there's potential for some fall off. Now, as much as I hate this team, you cannot argue that their offensive skill group is very talented.
Yeah, no, I would tend to disagree to a certain extent on the offensive line because Coach Stoutland, the Eagles offensive line coach.
Is that his name? Stalin?
Stoutland.
Nah, he's Stalin.
As in a beer land. But anyways, I think he's gonna get Jurgens mixed in with those guys. I think Steen will be okay. But you're gonna have a hard time finding three guys like Lane Johnson, Landon Dickerson, and Jordan Mailata on the same offensive line. Those three are absolute studs at tackle and guard.
Yep.
They still have Jalen Hurts back there running the show. It'll be interesting to see if they run him as much as they had. When they do, that's when they really start getting things to roll. But, he has had some injury concerns over the last year or two. He's been beat up a little bit. And when they do, or when he does, they tend to, take a step back on his legs. So It'll be interesting to that standpoint. I completely agree on the defensive line. Definitely don't have the depth that they once had, especially on the interior. Like you said, Jordan Davis, massive human being.
Yeah.
Will he be in football shape with this accelerated role?
The thing is, how many plays can he stay on the field?
Exactly. I mean, Jalen Carter, absolute beast as well, but they don't have the depth. They just don't. So, I think on the back end, I think they loaded up obviously, and they probably will be improved. But will Devin White? What Devin White are we going to get? Is Nakobe going to be healthy?
Yeah, the linebackers are a big question, like they've always been. They definitely have, more young talent than usual. But I don't think Devin White is.
They have talent, they have speed, they have size all over the place. But are they all going to be able to click and put it all together?
Yep. And rookie corners tend to struggle, even though I do like both those players, DeJohn and Mitchell. All right, let's move on to some best bets. Let's get some action for this team. So 11-6 last year.
Go ahead, shoot them off first.
Yeah. Win total 10.5, a little bit juicy over at -120. So I'm going to immediately start with that win total. I'm going to go under 10.5 wins here. I think that when you look at this team last year, I just think that
I think that's one of these. That's a hard play.
If you think that's a hard play, just wait for the next one. But yeah, so I just do not see this team being a better team than last year. Even with their struggles down the stretch, I talked about it. It's the offensive defensive line. I do not think that they replace guys like Hassan Reddick, Fletcher Cox, Jason Kelsey. I think they got some questions for the first time in a long time. And I think that a lot of people are just slating them in and just thinking that, it's Philly, with the coach, they'll just figure it out. But I have my concerns. So, going to that. And by that, all that bad karma that Saquon Barkley is going to bring to that team is going to be good. I know the NFL said there was no tampering. Bull fucking shit. All right. What do we have those investigations for? It's clear as day. Whatever. My next bet is for the Philadelphia Eagles to miss the playoffs and for the city to burn a little bit there if that happens. But yeah, I think that they're obviously I'm not predicting them to have a good year. You get a plus 180 on that. So the under 10.5 is plus 100. Missed playoffs is plus 180. I think they're somewhere around 8 and 9, even maybe 9 and 8. I just don't think that they make the playoffs, obviously, for a lot of the reasons I just said. And then finally, Mr. Benedict Barkley to go under 6.5 rushing touchdowns. I talked about the line play in front of him, but Jalen Hurts is just a touchdown machine or a touchdown merchant, depending on who you have in fantasy. Because, I mean, the guy had 15 rushing touchdowns last year. DeAndre Swift, their leading running back, only had 5. Saquon Barkley himself has put up a couple of years of 6 and 6, even when he's been healthy. Obviously, when he had one of his good years, he did have over that. But yeah, I just think that Jalen Hurts is still the goal line back. I think they're going to still try the tush push. I think they're going to run a lot of Jalen Hurts in the red zone. I just don't think he's going to get the volume in the red zone is really what it comes down to. I think he's a pretty good threat out of the backfield as well as a receiving threat. I think, having some design things where, whether you want to call it the Tebow or you kind of fake a Jalen Hurts run and kind of swing him out of the backfield or something like that. But yeah, I'm going with Saquon Barkley under 6.5 rushing touchdowns. All right, let's hear it.
So I completely disagree with that last bet that you threw out there. And if both of these hit, it'll be a miracle because I am taking Saquon Barkley to have at least 3 touchdowns against your New York Football Giants.
Oh my God!
And here's why.
Even a bet? Who is on? Are you making these on? Where the fuck is this?
Nope, that is at plus 225 off of DraftKings. But this is why. Okay, I do not think the tush push is going to be the same as it once was with Jason Kelce. I just don't think, across the NFL, the Eagles are by far, or have been by far, the best team. They're really the only ones that have truly been able to figure that out.
Yep.
As consistently as they have.
Yep.
I think that's mostly a Kelce thing. He's not going to be there. Jalen Hurts, definitely a threat running the ball. Like you said, he had 15 touchdowns last year. I just don't think they're going to give him that much volume.
The injury concern is a valid.
They have a huge step up in terms of running back talent, and they lost the giant killer in Boston Scott. So who's going to be stepping in there for those goal line carries other than Saquon Barkley? You bring this guy in, you pay him to produce. So I think Saquon gets at least 3 revenge touchdowns to
Are these rushing touchdowns? Or these are just any
3 touchdowns? 3 touchdowns.
All right.
He has an improved offensive line, no Boston Scott, and you have that threat of Jalen Hurts. So not all eyes, not 22 eyes, are going to be on Saquon Barkley this year. Like in the past.
Here's how we play that out. Game plan that. So week 17. All right, I gotta look at the schedule. I don't even know when they play each other. I know they play each other week 17 last year. Hold on, let me look here. Let me look at the schedule, see when they play. They usually play late in the year. Yep, week 17 again. All right, or week 18, excuse me, because of the little bye week. So week 18, Giants have locked up the division, number 1 seed. So we're resting our starters. So the Eagles at 8 and 8. They're trying to figure out how they can get into the playoffs. They'll sadly be left out. But yeah, they play all their starters. Saquon gets 3 touchdowns in a meaningless game. They miss the playoffs, and we're all happy. So all right, I can see that.
Honestly, if that's how it plays out, I cash. I don't think that's going to be how it plays out. But at the end of the day, my account has improved, or my account starts looking better. So
yeah, we can dream. What is that it for the Eagles? You got something else?
That's it. That's all I have for the Eagles. I just I like Saquon Barkley against your Giants. I think for a number of reasons, he's just going to have many opportunities.
Yeah, whatever.